king not being able to sleep that night, and then grabbing the one book, historical book, that he needed to pick up that would tell him who actually saved his life. So the story goes on that the king had given Haman basically the rights to the kingdom. His only free passage, which he gave him his ring. And once a king gives his signet ring to someone, they have the right of the king's signature, which means the signet ring. Water break. So when Mordekai refused to bow down to the king, Haman was so upset that he said he was going to destroy all the Israelites, or all the tribe of Judah within the province. And see, what happened was, just as the Most High orchestrated, that the king couldn't sleep, he also orchestrated that Haman's plan would get out to Mordekai. And this is where the story switches up. It takes me to the question I asked: where is our Mordekai and where is our Esther? Because we see in the middle of the book where the Mordekai and Esther prayed to the Most High. They basically laid their cards on the table and told him that our people was his inheritance, and that our enemy was trying to destroy them at the time. And as I said, we're in the same predicament. So we need an Esther and a Mordekai to pray and fast for us. So as the story goes, Esther made a plea. Mordekai made a plea to Esther and was telling her that she had to go before the king. And the law back then was, you didn't get an audience with the king unless he called you in for it. She had to trust the Most High and her cousin's word that this may have been the very reason that she was called into the kingdom. That yes, her beauty made way forward, which was her gift. However, the reason for her getting that position was to save her people. And a side note, this is the reason where all of our people, for all of our people that are in offices and higher places. So we really have to be careful how we judge each other. Because it's easy to say that our people sold out, or that they're manipulating their position for themselves. And in some cases that is the case. But the whole point is, if any of us as Hebrews have positions, and just as Esther and Mordekai, is to save our people. And if you don't know the story, it goes on to that, like I said, Esther went in to see the king, and if he didn't throw out his scepter of approval, then she was to be instantly killed, beheaded. But as the story goes, when she showed her face, at first he was very angry because she actually fainted. Because when she saw his eyes, she didn't see the loving, caring husband. She saw the great and mighty king standing before her. But like I said, he threw out the scepter, put it on her back of her neck, and rushed in to make sure she was okay. And told her, why are you fainting? Don't you know I'm your brother? Don't you know I'm your love? I'm your husband? We have a connection here. But all she knew was the law. And see, that's how it is with us within the Most High. Even though we break his law, do wrong time after time, he throws out his scepter of approval and forgiveness. But as the story goes, the king told Esther, whatever the problem was, you can have up to half of my kingdom. So she asked for an audience for her and Haman at her estate. She wanted to throw Haman and him and the king a party. So of course Haman was feeling himself, but he didn't know that the Most High would set them up even more. And what happened was, she had the king and Haman come in for the party, but the Most High wouldn't give her the free in her spirit to move on with what was her issue. And as I read on, I kept asking myself, why the second night? Why the second night? And of course, the Most High had to set up his game plan. So what he did, he had that night, or that afternoon, or that evening, Haman ran across Mordekai again. And this was to put the nail in the coffin, as I read on. And Mordekai refused to bow down to Haman again. So Haman went home hot. And let me back up. I believe that was the night the king had the dream and couldn't sleep. I may be wrong, it may be before. But he said, well, let me bless Mordekai for saving my life. So when he did this, he asked who is one of the officers that's in the palace at this time. And of course Haman was. So he asked Haman, what should the king do to bless the man that saves his life? So of course Haman, thinking the king was going to bless him and that he was the one the king was referring to, he said the king should give him his horse and put his clothes on the man and march him around town and make a big to-do of the man. So what Haman didn't know was his arch nemesis or arch enemy, Mordekai, would be the one he would have to ride around town posted up on the king's horse and in the king's gear, and have to broadcast around the whole city that Mordekai is the person the king's heart is towards, the one the king loves. So as the story goes, this even more infuriated Haman to the point where he built what you call it, the thing that you hang folks on. He built a gallows at his estate 50 meters high. And I said to myself, Lord, why? I said, Most High, why would he want to build it so high? And it's because he wanted everybody to see what he had done to this Israelite, and what he wanted everybody in all the provinces to do to the rest of the Israelites. So, as the story goes, and I better wrap this up before my time runs out on my camera. Haman set it up for the next day to have Mordekai hung. So, the next day, Esther had threw the second night of the party for Haman and the king. So that night, she told the king that the plans of Haman to kill her and all of her people. So the king asked, who will this man be that he would try to take the life of the queen and her people? So she told him it was Haman, and the king ran out in such disgust, because I'm sure he was thinking, oh, this is my right-hand man, what should I do? So while this was taking place, Haman jumped on the queen's bed to try to appease her to save his life. And right at that moment, the king came back in and said, what would you do, rape my wife? Right here in the palace, in my presence, or even assault her. But right then they covered his face, and whenever your face is covered in the presence of a king, that means your head was about to be chopped. And right then one of the king's men came in and said, well, Haman has built a gallows for Mordekai to hang him at his home. So the story goes on that Haman was hung on his own gallows 50 feet high, so all the palace, the province could see, all those in the city could see. And of course the story got around. But the story goes on that Mordekai was given Haman's place, and Esther was given Haman's home. So Esther put Mordekai in charge of Esther's home, of Haman's home, and the king gave Mordekai the king's ring, the signet ring. And the story goes on that Haman is dead. Mordekai put out an edict, which is a law to all the land, because, as I said before, Haman had put out a law that they was going to kill all the Jews, all the Judah tribes of Judah in the province. so that law was still standing. So what Mordekai did, he put out a law saying that the Judeans should protect themselves and kill all those that hated them and wanted to kill them. And it was set up that it was going to happen on the 12th month, on the 13th. So on that same day, the law was put out that all those of the tribe of Judah should take up arms and kill all of those that wanted to take their lives. And that's why I say, where are our Esthers and Mordecais? And I know we are under the Most High and His directions, but we need to seek His face like never before for our turning point. And just as I spoke of my turning point here in the last recording, the Most High is turning everything around for us, and He's bringing judgment on those that would desire to take our lives. And all of their hangmans in every province and every city around the world where our tribes have been scattered off to by the Most High. And see, the main point is that I'm making is the prayers and the fasting and the reminding of the Most High of who His people are. And that's what we're called to do right now. And that's going to be my time. Stay up and keep pushing forward in the right direction. Shalom. And have you been called to the kingdom for such a time as this? And if so, will you take the call, or are you going to let it go to voicemail? Or will you get to the place where you throw up the do not disturb on all your calls? And in an effort to duck one call, you're ducking them all. And see, the Most High has been at me, I want to say over a month with this lesson. But I have been hesitant about it until He caused me to see two other of the people that I watch on YouTube and Facebook. They came out with the same lesson. Hi y'all. Great. And that really made me say, okay, Most High, what would you have me to do? Because sometimes with some of these thoughts, the Most High will cause us to speak upon, they're not going to be popular for one thing. But we must take, bow down under His scepter, ask for His protection, and not only do what He tells us to do, but how and when. And see, the how and when can become a big issue. as I also said in my last video or recording, that it's not important what the people say, and that we must get to that point to where we can care less what they think, and only what the Most High is concerned about. And this is hard with us living in a physical world. And the Most High being spiritual, well, a spirit. But this has to resonate in our minds. And hey everybody, I had to come back on and share my word for the day, which is operos. Operos, which means tedious, worrisome, and something that's aggravating. And I tied this into my thought of the day because it's very wearisome and tedious to answer the call of the Most High on our lives, especially when we have any inkling of physical harm or even death. But see, just like Mordekai and Esther, they basically put their lives in harm's way almost every day. Even though Esther was in a grand place, she would have died also with the Judeans or the tribe of Judah and all the prophetesses, because it would have been found out that she was from Judah also, and Haman would have made sure that he would have had Esther killed also, because it would have been law. But yeah, that word goes right along with our thought of the day, because I'm sure it was quite wearisome and scary for her and Mordekai.